Joe Gibbs finally gets back to victory lane in the All-Star Race. Joey Logano upset with the promoter's caution. And of course, we have to discuss, should North Wilkesboro host a points race from this point forward? Let's break down the 2025 All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and let's talk about NASCAR's All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro. Certainly an exciting event tonight. I am still not back in the studio yet because I'm still on vacation currently in Central Florida, actually not that far from Daytona Speedway right now, about 30 minutes from there, but certainly had to watch and enjoy the All-Star Race tonight, and it was a good race, a lot to talk about. Three wide racing at times, multiple grooves at this North Wilkesboro racetrack. Should this race become a points race has been a point of conversation amongst fans for the last couple of weeks, maybe the last few seasons. And then, of course, we'll talk about Christopher Bell winning tonight, beating Joey Logano to promotional caution. A lot to break down following this year's All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro. More so this year than we had, more of a dominating fashion the last couple of years with Kyle Larson dominating the All-Star Race in the original return to this track in 2023. Once again, that was exciting, but that was not, action, passing for the lead, battle at the end of the race like we got tonight. Joey Logano again dominated the 2024 version of the All-Star Race at the same racetrack, and then tonight we finally, with 2 years after the repave, finally got an exciting finish with Christopher Bell making a pass on Joey Logano in the later stages of the race. It looked like Christopher Bell at the end of this race was faster than Joey Logano, at least for a majority of the finish. On longer runs, it looked like Christopher Bell was a little bit faster, and then, of course, being on the fresher tires than Joey Logano with those 2 tires versus none, Logano was unfortunately unable to hold off Christopher Bell, and Logano loses the race. Now, once again, this all happened because of the promoter's caution that did not have to be thrown, but could have been thrown anywhere from lap 100 to lap 220. It was ultimately thrown, lap 216? I mean, right at the end. I thought they would throw it, closer to the end of the time slot they were allowed, but around lap 216, Michael Waltrip threw the promoter's caution, dropped the flag. A little bit of a cringy situation there, but certainly something to see nonetheless. But that did unfortunately put Joey Logano in a rough spot, right? You're the leader late in the race. If you take tires, somebody else is going to stay out to try to beat you that way and take the clean air. If you don't come down and get the tires, everyone behind you is going to get those tires and try to pass you that way, except in this case, Ross Chastain, because and a few others too. Ryan Blaney stayed out too. Things didn't work out for Blaney. Ross Chastain was able to hold off to finish third because he actually ran out of tires from spinning earlier in the race, did not have an extra set anyway, so had to take the track position. But Chastain, unfortunately, wasn't able to get the win there. But overall, I thought it was a pretty solid finish tonight, right? You have Christopher Bell getting the win. I think that's a big statement for Christopher Bell, right? He has 3 wins this season on the year, but this is only the 3rd time ever that Joe Gibbs Racing in the, 30-something year history of this race team, only the 3rd time ever that they've won the All-Star Race. Certainly it took them a long time to do it. 2015's when they got their first with Denny Hamlin, and then you'd have to go to 2017 when Kyle Busch won it with Adam Stevens, and then that's who won it tonight with Christopher Bell. Adam Stevens and Christopher Bell won it tonight. It's only the 3rd time in history Joe Gibbs Racing has won the All-Star Race. Certainly that's exciting for them. I know Gibbs was talking in his post-race interview. I think they spent $10 million to win the $1 million tonight. So certainly interesting there that it took them that long, but a big momentum, boost for Christopher Bell. They're good on the short tracks right now. They're good on the road courses. And once again, if they can get better on the intermediates, they're not bad on the intermediates, but if they can get better at the intermediates type racetracks, Christopher Bell is going to be strong in all categories, which he might already be right now. So we'll have to continue to watch that, see how he progresses as a driver. And I know it's not the All-Star Race is not maybe a crown jewel. This isn't a Coke 600. It isn't even a Daytona 500, a Brickyard 400, or a Southern 500. Definitely not a championship. But I think it is kind of a statement to win the All-Star Race in NASCAR, because teams and drivers still do put a lot of effort into this race, and we have some big names that have won this race, and it always seems to be kind of a big deal when a driver wins it for the first time, right? I think it's certainly exciting to say you are an All-Star NASCAR race All-Star winner. I think that's something that still has a little more prestige than maybe other sports have in their All-Star event, because certainly this race still seems to put in a lot of effort. The teams and drivers still seem to put a lot of effort in and still seem to really try to win this NASCAR event. And once again, it's win or all. There's no points involved. Finishing second is the same as finishing last in a sense when it comes to this particular race. So certainly exciting there. You had the promoter's caution, which was a point of conversation. Joey Logano was obviously very frustrated with the promoter's caution in his post-race interview. Made some comments about Christopher Bell running him up into the wall. I don't man, it looked like Logano was really pulling off some heavy blocks, really aggressive racing in the closing laps of this race by Joey Logano to block Christopher Bell. So I think what Christopher Bell did was all fair game. I don't think anyone did anything that was over the top, anything extremely, dirty racing. I think it was just aggressive short track racing. But when Logano, was aggressive blocking like that, making contact, that opened the door for Christopher Bell to be aggressive as well, and that's what he did. I thought that was good racing tonight by really everybody involved. I thought it was entertaining, good, and it wasn't any like cheap shots. Like nobody dove in and just flat out wrecked somebody. Like an Austin Dillon in Richmond last year, right, which was way too controversial. This was good short track racing, which I thought was fantastic to see. Once again, that brings up the question, should this be a points race moving forward in the NASCAR Cup Series? And I would like to see it as a points race. I thought when they first made it the All-Star Race in 2023 that the next year it should be a points race. In 2024, it didn't do that. And once again, that was on the old pavement the first time we came here. That was on the original pavement that they raced at in the 90s, and then of course they repaved it last year, 2024. And now that we've got to the second year of the repavement, I mean, the grooves, we got 3 grooves. The way you're able to race on the bottom, middle, and even the top lane at times is certainly interesting. Tire fall off is real and prevalent. I know a clean air out front is certainly still a huge advantage, but you're able to kind of break it a little bit. This looked like a classic NASCAR short track race. They tried a new rear diffuser tonight as well. I think that was something that I didn't see a whole lot of talk about, but there was a different diffuser on the bottom of the race car. Maybe that obviously might have helped a little bit at least. I don't think that hurt the short track package we got tonight, so maybe there should be more of a spotlight shined on that. But certainly I would like to see this race as a points paying race. Then that obviously moves the question to, well, where do you put the All-Star race? We can talk about that for days. Do you start rotating that like the championship? We could talk about where to put the All-Star race. You could keep 2 races at North Wilkesboro. Have a North Wilkesboro All-Star race and a points race. I don't know if that would be an option, but I would think it would be interesting to see a points race at this racetrack, because for one, you would probably do it on Sunday afternoon at 2 or 3 o'clock in the evening, probably 3 o'clock, right? That seems to be the prime time slot for NASCAR. You'd have if you do it in May, you got the sun beaming down on the racetrack. It would certainly be less grip, and I think that could end up producing potentially even more exciting racing, even more tire fall off. That could be a very interesting race to watch. You'd also have more cars on the racetrack. You'd have at least 36, up to 40 cars potentially on North Wilkesboro. That would be the first points race since the 90s at this racetrack. I would like to see it. I think it would be something very fun to watch, very interesting to watch, and that would be sort of the official return to North Wilkesboro. When I think of North Wilkesboro, the last driver that won a race here, I still think of Jeff Gordon, because that was the last points race here. No gimmicks, nothing like that. But if we do return to a points race, that's actually a return to the All-Star race in a points event, or to North Wilkesboro in a points event. And how cool would that be to see a full 400 lap race at this racetrack? I think it'd be exciting. I think the racetrack can do it. I think with the package we have right now, it could produce good racing. Once again, the short track package still has a lot of flaws, but I think you could pull off an exciting race. Even if it's not exciting the first year, I think you could get good racing here, and that's what's important, right? It wouldn't necessarily have to be an uneventful race if we came here. I think you could get a good race. Even if you get a driver that dominates, like last week at Kansas, I don't think it makes Kansas a bad racetrack. We just had a driver figure it out and dominate last week. You could get that at North Wilkesboro, but I think you get some good racing here. Before I end the show, I do want to talk about the top 10 today, just to sort of break it all down, right? You had Christopher Bell get the win. Logano was just short of getting the victory. Wasn't able to hold off Bell long enough on the final run. It was a 20-something lap run. You have Ross Chastain finished third, ran out of tires, so had to stay out on old tires, but was able to finish third. Once again, it's win or bust in the All-Star race. Alex Bowman, always consistent, always in the top 5, even in the All-Star race, but cannot win these events, has not won on an oval since Las Vegas at the beginning of 2022. I think that was the 3rd race that year in 2022. So it's been a while for Alex Bowman, but we'll see. We'll continue to watch it. I've been saying that for a long time. He did win the road course race in Chicago. That was a big deal, but has not won an oval NASCAR event in over 3 years now. So certainly have to keep an eye on that. Chase Elliott, 5th place finish. Once again, the top 4 were really battling in close proximity to each other for this, at least this race finish that you could see in a camera shot. Chase Elliott a little bit farther back, William Byron a little bit farther back, finishing 6th. Tyler Reddick in the 7th position. Kyle Busch, 9th, 8th place finish. I know that's not ideal for Kyle Busch, but 2 top 10s in a row in the All-Star race. You take what you can get when you can get it right now, right, for Kyle Busch, especially at these short tracks. Chase Briscoe, nice top 10 for him in his first All-Star race at Joe Gibbs Racing. And, of course, you had Chris Buescher finish 10th in the 17 Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing Ford. And one other driver to mention, we talking about, just reminded me of this, talking about Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing. We saw some more speed out of Brad Keselowski today, leading some laps early on in the race. Looked to have a fast race car, qualified on pole today. Certainly exciting to see that car up front consecutive weeks. Crashes out, slams into the outside wall. We never got a clear-cut picture of exactly what happened. It looks like he got loose and slammed the wall. Never got a complete clear-cut picture from Fox to see what started the wreck. Whether, I don't think anyone got into him. Looked like he just got loose, slammed the wall. Man, Brad Keselowski, I mean, even in the All-Star, I know this is non-points exhibition event, but man, a shot to win or at least run up front, get a solid finish, and he crashes out again. The frustration is very real right now for the driver, the number 6, Brad Keselowski, RFK Racing Ford. Certainly interesting there. But we do go to Charlotte next week, a big week in NASCAR coming up. We have Kyle Larson racing the Indianapolis 500. Then he's going to fly over to Charlotte to race the Coke 600. The Coke 600 in of itself, you have 3 stages instead of 2. More points on the table. More stuff on the line this week for NASCAR drivers in Charlotte. It's NASCAR's home racetrack. A big deal, big event. I'm sure it's going to be a sold-out crowd. Over 100,000 people typically go to this race. This is a big week for the Indianapolis 500 and for NASCAR in Charlotte. A really big deal this weekend. Also, Amazon Prime is going to be hosting a race this week, too. Their first race on their network, or what I don't know, I guess you would call it a network, but we'll have to break all that down next week. We'll do some videos leading up to this big weekend, this big Memorial Day racing weekend. And, of course, about Kyle Busch getting a top 10 in consecutive All-Star races. Let's get rowdy.